Hey guys, welcome to Kidmissing TV. I am your host, Angelina Wilson. I do have a new light right there. I'm not using it today because I don't need it, but this time of year, I'm gonna need it. So, I didn't do a video Monday because I had to go to the dentist. And Monday, January 7th, I also won't be doing a video because I'll be going to have fillings. But it's a lot better than I had assumed it was. So, I'm happy. Anyway, as you know, this month we're concentrating on Ireland and the United Kingdom. Which part of Ireland, Northern Ireland, is a part of the United Kingdom. So, and we're concentrating on the murders of John Greenwood and Gary Miller, both age 11, in Mercyside, England. Sorry. Just call me and I will do it the right way. Anyway, they were murdered on Saturday, August 16, 1980. They were found underneath a mattress. They had been severely beaten. They were alive, but they both subsequently passed away. One passed away when he got to the hospital, and the other lived one more day. They describe it as, quote, the community's worst crime in living memory, end quote. And they had not been assaulted in an intimate manner. Now, they were found under a mattress in what they call a rubbish tip. Basically, my understanding is that it's not a dump. It's, we used to have basically private dumps on people's property. Here in New England, you have little private dumps in the woods behind the property. I am telling you, a group of us went out at my old house, not the one I lived in. Yeah, the second one I lived in Manshaw. And we knew about where there was an old dump site. And we found some interesting stuff, including some nice jewelry. It was a great evening to do it, too. It wasn't too hot, wasn't cold, it was perfect. We had a blast. And we had permission from the landowner. It wasn't his dump. It was a dump from, like, probably the first owners of the house. But back in the day, we did that. We would have little dumps here and there. They're pretty much, the older folks can tell you where these places are. And that's what a tip would be in England. The old sort of private dumps. Where you would bury your trash. Or have a specific spot in the woods on your property where the trash would go. Stuff like that. And that's basically what that is. A tip is where you tip the rubbish, where you put the rubbish. So it was actually a dog walker who found the boys. It is now a park called Statmore's Park. The site was a no longer used coilery. Let's look up coilery because I'm not sure what that means, but Coill. Let's look that word up. Oh, okay. It was the buildings associated with a coal mine. So it's not a coilery, it's a coalery. If I could pronounce words. Now, I have a little problem in this case, and that is that a man confessed and had information that someone who did the crime, someone who committed the crime, would have known. And unfortunately, he was tried and acquitted, which in Britain, as in the United States, means double jeopardy. Jeopardy's attached. Britain did update their double jeopardy law to say that if new evidence, and it has to be a very, very high threshold of evidence, comes up, like DNA or something, then they can re-question and potentially recharge and try the first one. Because they still believe the acquitted man did it. Like I said, he was John Chessman, who was 20 years old at the time. And he admitted to meeting the two boys. He said one of the boys used an F-bomb and smashed some bottles. He said the kids were calling him names, using F-bombs, and I guess he lost his mind. And he knew both of the victims because he helped out with the local scout group. So they went and asked people from the scout group to come forward. Okay, he told his father in the interview, because I brought his father in to be fair to him, and his father did not believe he did it. And he took his father by the arms and said, "No, Dad, no, I did do it." I don't understand how he was acquitted, but police are even apologizing for blunders in the investigation. I don't think they blundered. I think they were more than fair to this man. The parents of Greenwood Miller actually were there for James Bulger's parents with condolences and love. The Criminal Justice Act of 2003 changed the double jeopardy law, allowing retrials of suspects previously acquitted if new and compelling evidence emerged. And the families asked for them to reinvestigate. It took them until 2008 to do that. Even though police regulations in England say cold cases should be looked at every 2 years. And much of the evidence had been lost or destroyed. Oh, goody. In September of 2016, there was renewed publicity for the case. Because when an investigative report by the Sunday Times led to unearthing of new evidence, resulting in Merseyside police reopening the investigation yet again. It came out that a number of families had become disturbed at the time by 20-year-old Chessman hanging around with the young boys he knew from helping with scouts. And Greenwood's own father had intervened and asked the father of Chessman to stop him hanging around with his son. He came crying to a local man's door about this about 3 days before the murders. Said he would get the family back and make sure something would happen. However, because of the laws that existed at the time, before the Criminal Justice Act, this evidence was not admissible in court in 1981 as it was deemed hearsay. It also emerged the two boys. Two other boys had been with Greenwood and Miller, insulting Chessman until he snapped. Three young boys aged 12 to 14 seen between 6:45 and 7:20 with a man in the local church hall at Dragon Lane, now a nursery. That's a preschool or a daycare. Police are also appealing for anyone who saw the man to come forward, and also for information on a boy aged between 10 and 15 at the time named Duffy or Cuffy, seen near the Labor Club only yards away. Because of the double jeopardy law, they can't even question him as a witness. All the family is asking is that they're allowed to speak to him again. His sister said, John's sister, Debbie, said, quote, Sorry. Okay. This crazy 800-year-old medieval law means they're not allowed to question him, even as a witness. So we're not saying this person's guilty, drag him back to court. All we're asking is that the police are allowed to do their jobs. If they feel they need to speak to someone in a double trial murder case, they should be allowed to speak to them. End quote. Yeah. Okay. They asked the director of public prosecutions, that is who has to give permission under the new double jeopardy law, for permission, and they were denied. Assistant Chief Constable Ian Critchley said, quote, "We know it has to be carefully considered. We know the reinvestigating of someone who has been acquitted at court is really important, and we must obviously take into account a court's decision. But when we have further information and evidence where we feel with good reason and good grounds there is a case to interview somebody which could support the fact that there may well now be further compelling evidence to be considered, we would very, very much welcome a consideration and a change to the existing legislation." End quote. He also said, "We believe being able to re-question suspects could potentially lead to being able to demonstrate the new and compelling evidence needed to reopen particular cases, including the murders of John Greenwood and Gary Miller." End quote. John's sister runs a Facebook page on the case, and I will find it. "This law is in place to prevent possible harassment of a suspect, but we are going through real pain, and there is no law in place to help us." She continued, "There should always be systems in place to protect people from harassment, but this law goes way too far in the other direction." End quote. Their mothers want justice, of course, as any parent would, and as any parent deserves. I believe that double jeopardy laws do need to change. Excuse me. I have been sneezing my head off. Anyway, on both sides of the pond. I'm not saying, because those laws can be abused, so I'm not saying to okay, I need to add a little bit in the middle here. The video died when I was talking about the double jeopardy laws. I don't think they should be completely done away with, but they need to be changed and updated. Because I believe if they're completely done away with, they'll be abused. So they need to be changed. so that if there's concrete physical evidence, DNA evidence, things like that, you can retry someone. That's all I was saying, and the battery died. And you should be able to collect DNA evidence. That's my opinion. I'm trying to be loud enough so you can hear me. Because I think I'm getting a microphone for the computer for Christmas. Because the internal mic sucks. So yeah. What else? And then I went on to talk about YouTube's issues at present. And I decided to make that into a separate video. Like I said, you can, law enforcement can sometimes be a little overzealous, and if those laws are eliminated, they can be abused by law enforcement, by prosecutors, so we have to be careful. The innocent have to be protected, but we have to be able to convict the guilty as well. To not be able to talk to this man at all, like I said, I think that they should exhume the bodies, try to get as much physical evidence as they can from the bodies, since a lot of the evidence in the case has been destroyed. Then see if they can get him to voluntarily give a DNA sample. I'm not sure how they would get a DNA sample under the current law, but we shall see. And I will keep you updated. Okay, I need to add a little bit in the middle here. The video died when I was talking about the double jeopardy laws. I don't think they should be completely done away with, but they need to be changed and updated. Because I believe if they're completely done away with, they'll be abused. So they need to be changed so that if there's concrete physical evidence, DNA evidence, things like that, you can retry someone. That's all I was saying, and the battery died. And you should be able to collect DNA evidence. That's my opinion. I'm trying to be loud enough so you can hear me. Because I think I'm getting a microphone for the computer for Christmas. because the internal mic sucks. So yeah. What else? And then I went on to talk about YouTube's issues at present. And I decided to make that into a separate video. Like I said, law enforcement can sometimes be a little overzealous, and if those laws are eliminated, they can be abused by law enforcement, by prosecutors. So we have to be careful. The innocent have to be protected, but we have to be able to convict the guilty as well. To not be able to talk to this man at all, like I said, I think that they should exhume the bodies, try to get as much physical evidence as they can from the bodies, since a lot of the evidence in the case has been destroyed. Then see if they can get him to voluntarily give a DNA sample. I'm not sure how they would get a DNA sample under the current law, but we shall see. And I will keep you updated.